All right, Gunner. You cannot keep me silenced for long. Here we go. We got some action in the office behind me. There's people moving. America's up and running here. It might be summertime, but things are happening. So we're gonna be covering the markets. We'll give it a minute or two. We got some people on the old YouTube channel right now. We're looking good. If you're there and you want to say hi, write in the comments. Let us know if you got any questions for Gunner. If you have any tickers you want us to cover on the call. I joked around in the first comment. We're thinking about renaming this weekly spot. Maybe we just call it We Should Have Bought Nvidia, or like buy Nvidia and go away.
Buy
All
NVIDIA every day.
buy Nvidia every day. That could be a new strategy. No averaging down or anything like that. You just buy it every day. Like,
Investing is easy. It's too easy. You just buy
yeah.
NVIDIA.
But we've got a lot of things on the docket today. Gunner, we'll give it a minute here. I think we're in the summer doldrums. People are a little slower to pop onto the call. So we'll give it another minute or so. Um, but plenty of things happening in the market. And in general, we're just looking around and saying, is this chop going to continue to chop us up? Because there aren't a ton of legitimate follow throughs that we're seeing on almost anything. Um, but a real quick look at the agenda here for everybody on the call. We just made the joke about NVIDIA and semis, but semis just continue to roll. Gunner wants to look a little bit at Tesla because it's looking a little squeezy. We're going to have a Bitcoin breakdown of the breakdown. I got to find out in Gunner's notes. I don't know if he meant a breakdown of Bitcoin or Bitcoin's breaking down. Which one is it? Both.
Both.
All right, here we go. And then we've got precious metals. I mean, precious metals are looking pretty decent right here. And then some things in the retail and the food space. So we want to look at some tickers there. Those are the ones that are on Gunner's watch list, and we'll dive into it. So without further ado, Gunner, I'll give it to you. Markets are moving. They're not easy, other than the NVIDIA traders out there. What are you seeing? What's happening week over week? What do you like, and where should we go?
Well, the averages are at all-time highs, so
Yeah,
you shouldn't be complaining, right?
I'm not
But
complaining.
we've talked endlessly about how the market's a little bit top heavy, about how the Mag sevens and the semis have been driving the action and pushing the averages higher. That's mostly true. There are some stocks looking really good, but for the most part, it's the big boys that are dragging us higher here into the summer doldrums, as you say. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Um, this is the time of year where some folks take a step back from the markets traditionally. July is usually a pretty strong month, at least it has been recently uh, for tech. But we're seeing some decent little, I don't want to say like full on rotations, but we are seeing some stocks that haven't looked good during the first half of the year really start to perk up and run. And one of those is obviously Tesla. We've been talking about Tesla a lot. I talked with Doug about it as a potential trade the week before the fourth, heading into the third quarter. And I mean, you said it's looking starting to look a little bit squeezy. It's been very squeezy. Um, Tesla has not had a red day so far in July. And we can take a look at that right now. I just want to show you just how powerful this rally has been.
Yeah, let's pull that up. And again, I'm a holder of Tesla, so I like it. I've been watching it, but I mean, how do you know? You just said it's squeezy. Like, how do you know that that's kind of what's happening as opposed to some other narrative or some other reason why people are buying? Is there any way to figure that kind of thing out?
I mean, you really can't take a poll of everybody that's buying this thing, but there was some short interest. And I do think that a lot of folks were on the wrong side of this trade, just because, for the simple fact of the matter, that everybody's been bearish Tesla for so long here. The stock has looked so bad up until very recently, and you can see like everything about it setting up. If we sort of erase what's happened here, yes, it was basing out. It was starting to perk up here, and when I was first talking about it was on this big green day here on June 26th when it was up almost 5%, and it was pushing back toward this area of resistance, and it just hasn't looked back since then. And you can see the big volume coming in, but pulling back, unlike a lot of the other Mag 7 stocks that have been driving the gains in this market right here, Tesla's still way off its highs. It crashed heading into 2023 at the very end of the bear market right here. Now, remember, most stocks in 2022 bottomed out in October, not Tesla. It decided to, go all the way down here to a split adjusted $105. It did sharply rally off this mark, but it never really got legs. It pushed into the early summer months of 2023 and then fizzled out. And that left us where we were in late June, with a lot of folks talking about Q2 deliveries would stink. The past few earnings have not been great. Full self-driving talk isn't getting anywhere. Like I said, when I was talking with Doug about this a few weeks ago, you could concoct a ton of very intelligent Tesla bearish takes. And again, I don't think they're necessarily wrong, but price was telling us something different. And this breakout at $200, that nice round number, when that showed up, everybody took the ball and ran with it. And this has exceeded my expectations as far as a short-term trade is concerned. I thought it would take a few weeks in the best case scenario for this thing to get back up toward testing that 260 mark, which are these pivot highs here from late December. It took a matter of a couple of weeks right here, and you can see here all the green candles. The last red day this thing had was Monday, June 24th, and it's battled higher ever since then. Yeah, it's really overbought right here, but it looks to me like we have maybe a bit of a short squeeze, maybe some folks lining up to try to play this thing, looking for less bad earnings maybe. Earnings are going to be reported on the 23rd, so that's coming up relatively quickly. I'd like how this played out. If you followed me in on this one, I mean, I think now, if you're a more shorter term minded trader, now would be a good time to take some profits off the table, because this is a pretty big move right here. If you are a more longer term minded trader, if you're more of a fundamental mat, then I would say that, maybe take some profits, maybe leave some on the table, maybe leave some shares out there on the table for that earnings report, because this could be a bigger change in trend here. I don't know what earnings are going to tell us, but I think there is a possibility that folks get excited about something that happens within earnings, because again, expectations have been so low for Tesla that anything less than terrible might get the stock moving in the right direction again. And it's possible that this thing could take out $300 if it really gets going.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not just earnings. Again, I understand there's earnings there too, but that wasn't even what I'm excited about. You've got the self-driving day on August 8th. So you're going to have sort of back to back, like several weeks of time where if there's some speculation and people wanting to get into this trade and not miss out, or if they're short and they need to get out of the trade because they see earnings, they're like, oh, I could get hammered at earnings or hammered on self-driving day. There's two big catalysts sitting on this thing. But I agree. I mean, June 24th seems like a long time ago, and it's been green since then. That's not a bad time to take profits on any short-term outlook there.
Yeah, and also I think it's possible that the rumor mill is really spinning up on the positive end. Like I said, there's plenty of bearish arguments to be made about Tesla, but I saw some scuttlebutt online about folks predicting that there's going to be some sort of full self-driving licensing with a major automaker that's going to be announced. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I think something like that, some big announcement like that, could really turn the tables on some of these bearish arguments for Tesla, because, when people talk about these bearish arguments, I think the assumption is that full self-driving isn't going to be as big a deal as folks think, or it's much further out in the future than people think. Whereas the hardcore Tesla bulls will tell you that, well, that's the whole, Tesla's not a car company. It's a software company. It's this and it's that. And if they end up being the industry standard for things like EV chargers and then the full self-driving technology, if that starts to get licensed to every single automaker, I think that's a much bigger market, and then everybody has to go back to their financial calculations and figure that stuff all out and try to factor all that back into their estimates for this stock. And I think that could really change the tide for it. That's not a prediction on my part, but we are starting to see that type of rumor begin to circulate online again. So the Tesla bulls that have been very quiet, well, maybe not very quiet. Tesla bulls are never very quiet, but the
Yeah.
quieter lately are starting to chirp again. So we'll see if any of that comes to fruition. But the fact that this thing has not slowed down really, and we've had these massive gaps higher and these big moves, and even today, a relatively quiet day for the market where not a lot of stuff is moving and breadth really isn't that great. It's up another almost 3% and pushing back toward 260. It's a remarkable move and, potentially a big time change in trend for this stock. And the thing is, we talked about this in context with some other EV ideas. Rivian, I think, could be another big gainer right here. I actually bought some Rivian shares on the week of the big announcement, the partnership with VW. Just added a few shares here, thinking that this could be a change in trend for Rivian. And one of the main ideas behind this is that Rivian was looked at as the potential zero down here. We've talked a lot about how the attitudes have greatly shifted negative as far as the future of EVs and how quickly consumers are going to be willing to adapt to them. Those expectations have been downgraded dramatically over the past year or so. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's a temporary speed bump. I'm not sure, but I like the idea of Rivian here being maybe like a not so politically polarizing company, or at least not a politically polarizing leader of the company like Musk is. And maybe that will help them. Perhaps the whole joint venture thing with VW will spark something bigger, or at least keep them out of trouble, out of financial trouble for a time being until they release their new model lineup. So we'll see how this does. But I like the idea of this thing, getting to the point where folks were seriously talking about it not existing in a few years, to getting a big joint venture with one of the biggest automakers in the world and being able to recover from that. And it's holding that gap higher right there. If it can continue to march back up here toward those opening highs from the 26th and take those out, I think we have a legit change in trend here for a stock that has really, really struggled, even more so than Tesla. I mean, we can see the IPO hype here from late 2021. What a time to IPO, by the way, the very peak of the COVID bubble right there, right before things really turned south for a lot of these tech companies heading into December and January of that next year. $150 stock and all the way down here to $8, and now finally gaining some traction right here. It tried a couple times back in 2023 and the moves didn't stick, and then some very bearish looking earnings totally cratered this thing, down 25% in a day. That's never a good day, no matter how you slice it. So filling this gap, I think, is a big deal. Maybe bouncing around in this area from 15 to 25. I know it's a huge, wide-ranging area to be bouncing around in, but maybe that's what it needs to do to finally turn the corner here and move higher. But as far as EVs go, those are the two ideas that I think really could have legs in the coming months and could benefit from a bigger narrative shift if we get it. The stuff that's not working, obviously, are your charging companies, your battery companies and stuff like that. Those still are down in the dumps. I know that, Matt, you've traded these before, right? Like Blink.
Yeah, way back in the day, because I've been not
Yeah.
burned by them. I just like got unexcited. So that's what happens. Is why
Well,
the air left the building. When Blink was at like what, like 20, 25, that was when it was exciting.
yeah. I mean, look, it was a fun pandemic trader, because back here's the pandemic right here. And this thing just, I mean, it could
Yeah,
really,
the road, it's more like the road to 20 was the fun part.
yeah. I mean, it went from, let's see, pandemic lows of like $1 all the way to $60. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
With lots of great volatility in between, great trading stock. Nowhere close to sniffing that area lately, and it doesn't look like it's really improving that much here. Yeah, it hasn't broken these lows right here, but nothing to really get too excited about. And Plug, we've talked about the demise of Plug before. It looks probably worse. This is one of those stocks that might not make it. And again, it was a great trader back in the day, but these guys really aren't playing nice. So I'm sticking to the bigger ideas. And another part of the Tesla idea was the fact that it was a lagging mega cap, and all the other mega caps have looked so good recently. You pull up any chart, and yeah, they have their red days, but you pull up like a Meta, um, it looks fantastic. Amazon's gotten its act together, and it finally broke out, and it's kind of toying with $200 right here as Jeff Bezos sells a few bills. No big deal. But that's a pretty clean breakout right there after bumping them, up against that 190 level, all the way back, heading back to April. Microsoft looks great. All of these charts don't look like Tesla, but it was still getting lumped into that group, and now it's finally, getting legs and trying to catch up. So in an environment like this where breadth isn't that great, and the mega caps are really dominating the space, I figured, Tesla is a logical choice, and it's worked really well so far. So good trade in kind of a tough market when you're looking outside of the big leaders right there. And we finally got a good turnaround play like that is really looking nice.
Yeah.
Now,
And just some stuff on the chat. We'll wrap it up on Tesla, but Enrique's in there. He said Tesla short interest was also at an all-time high going into the rally. And then Sam out in Vegas, again, this is just anecdotal, but I know people that have Teslas, and Sam was saying he had full self-driving for 5 years, and the last version 12 is a huge improvement. The
yeah,
last 3 months, he used it in Vegas 90% of the time. So like that's the other thing. Again, you get enough of that little narrative out there. It's like this
yeah,
is real. You don't have to drive your car anymore, and the future's kind of here. You can get some people buying into the stock and they just buy it and forget about it because they're like, oh, I want that car company that's going to do all the self-driving. Yeah, it's Tesla, whatever. I'll just buy it and not worry about it. And you just get a nice base for that stock. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, like the whole like robo taxi, like full self-driving idea feels dead in the water. That feels like what the consensus is right now. And if that consensus turns out to be wrong, that's going to be rocket fuel for Tesla. I mean, I'm not really trying to compare it to NVIDIA, but it's almost the same thing where everyone was so bearish on NVIDIA in 2022 because the prevailing narrative was no one's buying these chips at full price anymore because no one's building these huge crypto mining rigs. And everyone was bearish NVIDIA. And then you go into 2023 and all of a sudden the AI thing like finally takes hold. And I mean, the rest is history. Buy NVIDIA every day. That's, easy, right? So
Simple.
it's incredible how quickly, in retrospect, those flips can happen. And I'm not predicting that, yeah, that's going to be the case with Tesla, but I think it's definitely a possibility. And with the price action looking so good right now, yeah, I think it needs to backfill and probably hang out for a while here. It might not break 260 cleanly and run, and then there would be nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, this could be a bigger reversal in the making. So we'll just have to see.
All right. What to next? You want to break down the breakdown?
Breakdown. Yeah, Bitcoin doesn't look good. Not for the short term. Um, you don't need a PhD in chartology to figure that one out. I mean, you can see here, we really enjoyed this nice big run up from the if you remember back to late 2023, but Bitcoin started moving well before, like several weeks before the stock market really caught and moved higher and started that melt up rally into Q4 last year. Bitcoin took off and broke 30,000, and it really didn't look back. Yeah, it stumbled a little bit in following the hype around the ETF approvals back in January. But I mean, what a ripping rally here from these lows near 25 all the way up to new all-time highs here in early March around 73K. But it's been in this choppy range ever since then. It looked like it might offer a decent bounce here headed into July, and that quickly fell apart over the holiday weekend, or over the kind of weird holiday week we had last week. We finally saw this breakdown below 58. I think 60 was the market really needed to hold at that point. This was more of a fake out lower right here back in early May, but it broke below 60 and then it broke below 58. And now we're stuck down here below this range. I think that Bitcoin's going to need a little bit more time here. I mean, I could be proven wrong, and this could be just a big fake out lower, and it could rip higher. But middle of summer, no real traction since the halving. I think that's one of the big things. One of the things that we were talking about, Matt, earlier this year was every time there was a halving, Bitcoin posted a pretty decent rally, and we really didn't get much of anything. Uh, the halving was here. It was around this point in
Yeah.
what was around the 20th of April ish is when
Yep.
it happened, and after that, it came all the way down and tested the bottom of its range right here. That looked like it might have just been like a sell the news fake out, and then it tried to push higher. Never really convincingly held above 70K after that. It tried a couple times. I remember back in early June, it felt like, okay, it's consolidating nicely around the top of its range, and it might go and seriously make a push toward 100K. That this might be the moment right here. And the bulls just couldn't rise to the occasion. And it's been basically straight down ever since. Yeah, we got a little bit of a reprieve, and it looked like it might just hang out in this choppy range to start the month. But it was an absolutely brutal Independence Day weekend for or heading into Independence Day itself for Bitcoin. What was it, down 3%, and the next day it was down 5. That was the big move right there, losing like 2 grand, and it's just been sort of consolidating here ever since then. I don't have it on the screen here, but it's also like this area just so happens to be like right under the 200-day as well. So this could be a situation where it breaks the 200-day for the first time since all the way back here in mid 2023. And now it's kind of, bumping its head back against that, and maybe it needs to turn south again. It doesn't look like there's much room for this thing to hang out here. I mean, anything could happen, but I would say it's probably got to come down and retest 50 at some point. And if things get ugly, then it might have to come back down here into this area near in between like 42 and 44, which was that resistance area from back in December, January, before it really started taking off again in February. If it does that, then I think we're just in the middle of a bigger drawdown after this rally right here. Maybe folks got too bulled up on all of the news events that were going on this year. Maybe this is just more of a case of, it's just run out of steam and it needs to reset. But either way, short term, I don't think things are looking very good for Bitcoin. Again, it's July. I don't think that this is a great time of year to be like, pushing people into stuff. I mean, we saw what happened with every single roaring kitty meme stock lately. You get these big pops and
Yeah.
nothing sticks. They just don't have the juice to push these things higher right now. And I mean, I don't want to paint any big negative picture about what the speculative market's supposed to look like if Bitcoin fails right here, but I think there is some correlation to that. I think it's kind of logical to say like, okay, if the crypto bulls can't come out and move this stuff higher, and the market's kind of narrowing, and we're looking at just the mega caps really dominating, and everybody's piling back into Nvidia again. You
Yeah.
know, uh, maybe this market just doesn't have the legs to run with some of these plays.
Yeah. And again, you can get, I like to paint these pictures, but again, don't take my word as the law. But like this could just be just like we saw, like you said, with Roaring Kitty, that there's normally follow through. Some of that's kind of the same gang in Bitcoin. What if the money has run out for this gang, or they need to, reload a little bit on cash because they went in, they were playing around, and they lost it, and this and that. It's like I think that's a real feature of the Bitcoin market because like if you look at what happened in 2020, 2021, there's just so much money floating around in the hands of people that liked Bitcoin, you know, and they say, hey, well, I'm just going to play around or I want to do this. I'm going to throw some money into Bitcoin. What if now people are losing their jobs, food and everything else is real expensive? They just don't have money to just throw extra stuff into Bitcoin. That could be one of the things that we're seeing there with those higher speculative, the roaring kitties, the Bitcoins. It might just not have that wave of buyers, which is a legitimate momentum supplier for something like Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, these are interesting narratives to discuss. It's impossible to prove these things, obviously. I mean, this is just a way to contextualize like what might be happening with the markets. But I agree with you there to some extent. I mean, and we know how Bitcoin operates too. This chart only goes back to late 2017, but we all remember that first big Bitcoin run in late 2017, where everyone really started to take notice. Before that, yeah, it was mainstream, but not really. But that was the first big move right there. It had to give it all back. And then we got another rally in 2019, and it gave most of that back, although, it did recover rather quickly from that and then push higher um, into the pandemic trading where it, rocketed to those new highs near 60K. This drawdown right here took it all the way back almost to, well, actually into that peak from 2017. But I think everyone was expecting more from this one. And maybe it's not done. Maybe this is just going to get really messy in here and it's going to keep on going and maybe,
Yeah.
hit 100K from here. But I think folks were expecting this to extend much higher than these previous peaks right here from 2021. And so far, it's looking like it's continuing to run into sellers as it ran into sellers, twice back then during.
Speaking of sellers, from the comments, we've got, and again, I've heard this narrative. I don't know anything about it, but right, a lot of folks are saying, Germany is dumping its Bitcoin. So
Yeah,
we
I've
got
seen
a
rumblings
few
about
different
that
people
too.
saying that. Yeah, it's maybe the market was flooded. Maybe there's Bitcoin. So again, if that's true, which we don't know,
Yeah.
and how it would work and how it really affects the market, maybe you take off that July 4th meltdown, and that's, transitory.
I I don't know. I
That's a lot of you're doing a lot of ifs and thens at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and I like doing the ifs and thens. I get it, but at the same time, I think that I mean, we know how people
Why does
operate.
Germany have Bitcoin? Can someone in the chat put where did they get their Bitcoin? When was Germany just buying Bitcoin? And why are they such a player that they're able to move the market when they sell their Bitcoin?
I mean, Bitcoin's kind of a mania-driven marketplace too. No one's buying on earnings or anything like that. So I think this could be just a situation purely of the fact that Bitcoin's below this line and people are going to be less excited about it when it's down here in the 50s than they are, when it's up here in the mid 60s right here. They're good. Obviously, everybody that everybody that bought into the latter part of this rally right here isn't feeling that great about their holdings right there. And maybe we just need to see some more stability and it needs to bleed off some more of this enthusiasm from earlier this year and in late 2023 before it can move again. So all narratives aside, that's how I feel like people are going to be viewing this chart, at least for now. So we'll see. I mean, again, this could be a situation where this is just a fake out lower and it pops higher. Bitcoin's done that before, and it'll probably do it again. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think we have to adjust our outlook here with it being below this mark because, and we mentioned this in the previous few weeks as the air was getting let out of Bitcoin right here. When you're in a big sideways range like this for too long, it's there comes a point where everyone gets worn out. And I think that's especially true with these tags of 70, 71K back here in late May and early June. I think that was when expectations were this thing's going to break out. It's at the top of its range. It's going to break out now. And then when it didn't, I mean, we were already in this range since, the beginning of March. It's just too long of consolidation that could turn into a top. Well, at least in the intermediate term. I'm not saying, Bitcoin's never going to see those prices again, but the sideways consolidations, when they last too long, they become tops sometimes. And I think that's just the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like from the chat, Enrique, Eric wrote in, it was, Germany has some confiscated Bitcoin that they have sold potentially. So we'll see. The chart
Well,
doesn't lie though. The chart
yeah,
is what it is. The price is what it is. It's a 57K. That's not as good as 75K. So,
there you go. That's the
okay.
important analysis right there. 57 is less than 75. So there you go.
Yeah. Wait, we had that. Didn't we have that? Where was that bet at? It was like 70. What did we say? Like 55 or 85?
Was that the bet? Do we have a bet going on?
Not a bet, but that was like we were talking about that a few weeks ago, maybe like 5 weeks ago or something. We were like, hey, Bitcoin's at this point. Like, is it going to go like from here? It could go. No, that would have been when it was at 70 though. So maybe that was
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
a few
it
weeks
must have
ago.
been back at the beginning of June.
Yeah. Yeah. So right at 70 looked like it could go to 85, but it could also go to 55. So that's where we are. We're closer to 55 now.
And
So
it's Bitcoin. I think you throw out any number and it might be true. Could go to 100, could go to 30. We'll see.
yeah.
But
All right, let's
what is looking good? You have Bitcoin looking not so good. digital gold or whatever. I know people don't like it when I say that, or some people don't like it when I say that, is not looking too good. But gold looking interesting right here. Starting to firm up. Yeah, it had a bit of a a difficult start to the week right here where, I mean, last week, everybody distracted, 4th of July, kind of a weird week with the holiday in the middle of the week right there. Uh, Gold looked amazing on Friday, kind of a quiet trading day. It blasts higher to prices we hadn't seen since late May. It kind of gave it all back there, but precious metals are starting to firm up again, and the miners are starting to firm up again. We have a trade on GDX right now in the trading desk, which I really like how it's starting to shape up. But this has been kind of a messy consolidation and pretty frustrating. And, like, I'm not trying to compare gold and Bitcoin. I think that's dangerous territory right here.
Yep.
But, we have kind of a similar situation where we have this kind of wider ranging, you know, choppy range that gold has been stuck in between, the high 2200 area and, the mid 2400 area right here. I'm getting more bulled up on this just because of how good silver and some of the other metals are starting to look and turn the corner right here. And seasonality is in favor of precious metals, or it's getting to be in that time right now. So we'll see how this starts to play out. But the question here is, has this been enough so far to bleed off the excess enthusiasm from this major generational breakout that happened, at the beginning of March, when it finally, cleared that it left the 2000s, behind for good, potentially right there, and up to 2100 and beyond
Yeah.
right here. And the fact that gold miners started to play along and then went back into consolidation and now are starting to move again. Silver is starting to look a lot better. Yeah, it's down today, but it's starting to get more volatile. It's starting to get a lot of interest. Is this a situation where, this, whatever this downtrend was right here, it's starting to break out of this and move back toward 32. And again, everything is kind of shaping up in favor of this right now. Some air was let out of the dollar. We have seasonality on our side. We have like platinum and palladium and copper.
Yeah.
All
Enrique
these
was
things
saying
are starting.
PALL. We can look at that one
Yeah, like that's
for
one of the
palladium.
weekdays right there. Like palladium. I mean, you got to kind of like go back and look a little bit longer term here, but it's starting to flatten out, and it started moving before gold and silver were really firming up too. It started moving back here in late June, posting these big days. Yeah, it's down like 3% today, but is this base starting to really firm up, and is this thing going to start turning higher right here? A lot of stuff in this metals group is starting to look really good, and so I kind of want to give the benefit of the doubt to some of these upside moves so far. Let's
What
see.
about some silver plays? We had some other comments earlier on about silver, maybe just looking at some different silver tickers.
Yeah, we can do that. I have some other miners too that are starting to shape up, but I mean, you can see like not the best days here for some of these metals, but it's a little choppy, but they're starting to turn higher here. What were the ones I had written down right here? Like AU looked really good earlier this. I mean, look at this. Look at some of these gold miners here that are gapping higher and starting to move up 10%. I don't know what
Yeah.
that news was on that day right there, but you know, when I'm running these scans at any point during the week or on the weekend, and I'm looking at what's posting 50-day highs, what stocks are near their 52-week highs, all of that stuff. Over the past 10 days or so, a lot of precious metals and base metal plays have started to creep back into those results right there. And I always try to keep an eye on when things start to change like that, when I start to get certain groups of stocks that start to populate these lists more and more when I'm scanning. And over the weekend, a lot or several of these bigger miners are starting to pop, and you can see here, like look at this longer term chart right here.
Yeah.
It feels like we got a nice big bowl right here, and we're starting to push toward these 2020 highs when this thing last flamed out. If you remember back in July and August of 2020, that was gold's first break of 2000 right there. So there was a lot of hype surrounding some of these plays heading into there. Obviously that failed and it moved back into its range. But at the same time, this is looking like it's starting to break out. You know this one, Matt. Uh,
Kinross.
Kinross right here. And look, look at these on multiple time frames right here. Yeah, not only is it moving to 52-week highs right here, but it's starting to tease these highs from August of 2020. It feels like something's brewing
Yeah.
here with these
I think
miners.
what's brewing, I mean, again, I'm just talking my own book on gold, but like I think gold's going 2,500, 2,600. Like a lot of our analysts, including you, Nuckman, like a lot of people around Paradigm have been saying, like, I think it just took a little break. Now it's going to go back up,
Yeah.
goes 2,600. Like that's going to just make more buyers of all these miners.
And maybe, I mean, and I know this is probably, one of the more well-known plays, but Newmont's looked terrible, uh, and really didn't keep up with some of the smaller guys, and maybe it'll start to shape up too. Um, and I could just draw a line like right here ish in this area. It probably needs to move up a little bit. But I mean, looks like it could be a nice bottom on
Yeah.
this stock as well. I don't know if it's going to get legs like some of the other ones have because Dumont's been underperforming. Maybe people will rotate into it. I'm not really sure. But at the same time, it feels like something's happening here and some money is starting to flow into some of these plays. Like I said,
What
we have
about AGI? AGI was one that we looked at a bunch. Yeah, you got GDX
yeah,
on, yep.
it's been sloppy though. Like I said, like this is an older line that I had on here, and it obviously retreated back into this range, and then it really started getting going here. Um, Consolidating pretty nicely here, especially given like some of the red we're seeing in platinum, palladium, copper, and stuff like that today. So I mean, I like how this looks. And did you just toss me a ticker that you want me to look
Yeah,
at?
AGI. I think it's Alamos.
Yeah, that too. I mean, like look at these huge.
No, that's hold on. That's not it. That
That's
is
not it. What is this?
what's AG is First Majestic. I thought it was Alamos Gold. AG. I just
AG's first
that's
majestic.
silver.
Yeah.
Type in Alamos. Why am I not coming up with Alamos Gold ticker?
I
Maybe
don't
I'm
see
just
it.
maybe it got
Maybe we can find
erased.
it. Hold on. I can find it.
It went up too much. Everyone was
It says AGI is Alamos Gold.
what is happening?
I don't
What
know.
someone hacked your trade view account, dude.
I don't know. It's
All
pulling up something
right.
different. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice looking chart. Like a lot of these are really, and the silver ones are more volatile and they're, not as easy to track, but some of these gold miners are looking really good right now. I think that GDX is the easiest way to play it to take out some of the earnings risk of, these individual companies here, obviously, but they're looking really good. And I think this is the time of year to be looking at these stocks anyway. Especially if you're like not feeling so hot about the market overall. Maybe the spot to hide out is going to be, some of these gold miners heading into the dog days of summer and beyond. We'll see. But I like how some of these charts are shaping up. Gold and silver still have some work to do, but yet the miners are starting to perk up here. I think that's all a good sign. I'm bullish in the short term, and we'll see how it all shapes up.
Yeah. And we've got a bunch of stuff. We're not going to have any time to cover on this call, but there's just so many things globally that are happening. Like you've got all these big things at play. We obviously have the election here in the US, but you had all these other elections over in Europe. You've got a bunch of like upset wins. You got economies over there struggling. You've got different currency problems going on. So it's like all this stuff that could really, again, either fuel or take away fuel from some of the stuff we're seeing. Because like the dollar, like yeah, you've got gold up, but like the dollar is still hanging out what a 104, 105. Yeah,
Yeah,
105.
it's 105.
Like
There.
the dollar, it's tough because like the market could scream higher. Like if Donald Trump wins, he comes in somehow it gets the dollar to crack a little bit. But the anti uh conversation of that would be like, the dollar is the opposite of Europe. Europe just looks like trash. So the
Yeah.
Europe economies over there, nothing looks good. And that's just holding the dollar up. So it's like it's a bunch of the stuff we need something to break somewhere. Because the dollar looks pretty positive there.
Yeah, I mean it obviously failed here at 106, but it's caught itself here around 105, and it's certainly not, I mean it's in a range right here, but it doesn't look bearish,
Yeah.
at least not yet.
Yeah.
So we shall
Anyway,
see.
I just say that just that there's nothing really other than just there's all these things happening that, we're going to get a little bit more of that narrative coming out sooner than later about where the dollar could be headed. Maybe it takes a trend up or down. And then we'll
Yeah, but look
see
at these,
once elections.
look at S&P, look at these stair steps here though. Large caps
Yeah.
can't lose, man. They just go up. New all-time highs every day.
Indexes and Nvidia. That's it. All right, what else we got? We've got shopping. We've
We
got
see that we
eating.
see now here's that's another thing. It's like, some of these like retail players look really good too. Like Costco, the unstoppable force that is Costco. I mean, who doesn't love Costco, right? It's an incredibly strong chart. Pushing toward these highs, pushing toward 900 here. It looks really good. Looked excellent last week. Again, up almost 3% on Friday. That's a strong chart. Kind of a Costco also ran here. BJ's Wholesale. That's a strong chart. I mean, you can kind of lump it in, but they do a bunch of stuff. But Amazon looks really good.
Yeah,
So none of these charts are screaming to me that like there's a huge problem just yet. Here's TJX, another discount clothing and home good retailer. I mean, I guess you could categorize it, but I mean, like, look at these charts. I mean, these are some strong stocks here. So, we've been kind of complaining or kind of joking around about, NVIDIA and the Mag sevens being the driving forces behind the market, which they obviously are, but you don't have to dig down too far to find these sort of oddball stocks that are really pushing higher here too. So, I mean, on the one hand, Matt, you have these fundamental narratives that seem to be coming out all over the place where it says excess savings is gone, or
yeah.
you like talking about these things. And then we have, you know, what's contradicting it here is, these stocks are just marching higher and they're not quitting, at least not yet.
That's true. I mean, again, it's not like that's unless higher middle class or high class people are like, oh, I got to go to TJ Maxx now, and that's what's supporting it. It's probably not likely that that's the case. It's probably just normal TJ Maxx buyers, and they're buying a bunch of stuff.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting to talk about. We really it's tough not to get lost in some of
Yeah,
those narrative
you get in a
outlets.
circle real quick, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, ah, sell TJ Maxx, buy TJ
Right.
Maxx. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no worries there. Um, but it's all playing out. So I mean, like you're saying, it's good. A good reminder. It's not just the Mag 7. It's not just there are some green shoots in other places around the market, and those charts that you just showed are highlighting that. What's some in like the food space again? We always kind of do this right before lunchtime, but so we
Yeah, we kind of play with the
apologize.
lunchtime stocks.
Enrique was talking Kava before. I think like you
Oh,
were
he
you were
was.
looking at Kava. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
in the chat.
Kava looks up. I don't know. Maybe
Other than
it's
erase
looking
that
great.
one. Erase
It was
that
looking great. It was
last
looking great
candle.
yesterday. Maybe we're just entering into another period where like some of these like potential breakouts just aren't sticking because we had Kava looking so good, yesterday, and then ended up closing a little bit red. Not a huge deal right there, but down 4%. I don't know if there's any like news like surrounding that right now. CFO sell shares. I don't know about that, but um, still, like you zoom out, it's a pretty strong chart. It's Chipotle that's not looking that great. That looks like it's rolling over here. I mean, it seems like that split, which everybody was kind of looking forward to, is becoming more of a sell the news type event. Uh, right here, it did tumble before the split, but then after the split hit, we haven't really seen much positive action from it. Down 5% yesterday, down almost 2 today, all the way back here to that shelf of highs from April. This thing's losing steam. Are people anticipating not so great earnings? At the end of the month, I don't know. We'll see. But this isn't something that I'm rushing out to buy right now, and it feels like it's starting to accelerate lower right here. I mean, that's an ugly candle after what looked like an unbeatable run here in early June. Definitely rolling over. What are some of the other ones that have been hot lately? Are they doing the same thing? Like, what about Wing? We've talked about Wing a lot. I haven't looked at this chart. It's kind of rolling over a little bit too,
Yeah.
not as severely as Chipotle. Maybe these stocks are showing signs of falling out of favor. I'm not really sure, but we kind of joked around. I know at some point back here in early 2024, we joked around about the wing stuff, the chicken wing economy, and how expensive this stock was.
I think it was more recent. I think it was like in May, like somewhere in there, because we were talking about we need to go there for lunch. There's one, it's not super close, but it's doable. We could make the hike for some wings. But now
I
that the
mean, if
chart's rolling over,
yeah, I don't know if we ate wings, I would need a nap. If we like ate wings and fries for lunch, I'd
yeah.
need to take the rest of the day off to recover. Um,
What is Enrique saying there's a ticker, it looks like BRBR. I don't even know that one. I like it when there's new ones. Hopefully it's I don't what is that? Bell
Bell
ring?
ring brands.
Hmm?
That's down.
They do protein shakes.
Oh, are people not doing protein shakes anymore? Um,
Huh? Well,
yeah, like this looks. I mean, this has been kind of stuck uh in a range too. Again, it doesn't look like it's not like totally falling apart here, but some of these are rolling over today. That's kind of interesting.
yeah.
That would be happening here on what seems to be a pretty neutral day for the markets. Is Powell mentioning this? Is Powell selling Kava or Chipotle? Has he mentioned that? I know, is he still talking? I know Powell's talking today. Um,
I don't know.
but yeah, maybe something's brewing here. I mean, I know we kind of joke around with these stocks and we look at them kind of tongue in cheek, but seeing all of them kind of be uh, putting in some big red candles on a pretty innocuous day for the markets right here. I know, like the decliners are outpacing the advancers here, but at the same time, like the market's really not doing that much. It kind of makes you go, maybe that's something that we could circle back on next week too, and just keep track of. Are we starting to see, like some of these stronger trends? I wouldn't say it was like a major market theme there, but obviously a pretty strong trend for a long period of time right there. Are we starting to see those fizzle? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Teresa just wrote in, people can't afford to eat out. I mean, again, we're seeing all the stuff. We'll see. We'll know in a few weeks, months, if that's the case, and things are going to start getting bad a little bit more across the board.
What about our Dutch?
Um,
We traded Dutch
say people
brothers.
can buy coffee.
Yeah, so maybe people like their maybe people like their dessert coffee and they're fine with that. Starbucks doesn't look good, right? It hasn't looked good for a while. Yeah, it looks bad. Starbucks looks bad.
Yeah, what are they
Totally rolling
doing,
over.
dummies?
Um, yeah, I mean, they tried to recover from that bad earnings, but this is water falling lower right now.
Yeah.
This is like the opposite of Tesla,
I'm
right?
just guessing, but that's just something internally. They got something wrong that they're doing. Because obviously, if Dutch Bros, they're going up, and then Dunkin's not publicly traded anymore, right? That used to be
Yeah, they
publicly
went private,
traded.
didn't they?
Yeah. But like those, I bet Dunkin is making money right now compared to Starbucks. I think Starbucks internally, they just did something. They went the wrong way
Those
on
Dunkin'
something.
booze drinks.
If anyone hasn't tried those, do not do it. There are spiked Dunkin' Donuts coffees in cans. They are disgusting. We said this earlier. We always talk about food at the top trades at 11, but we should do a happy hour. Maybe we do a Thursday afternoon one time on one of these, because then we could unlock. There's probably a lot of trades that could come out of that happy hour. We'll see. All right, Gunnar, where do we go from here? Any other last words? What else should people know week over week? Anything that you're seeing in the next, like, I guess, week or two that's coming up that you're interested in, or just any charts or predictions you'd want to make week over week?
Well, I think the big thing is Bitcoin going to continue to resolve lower, and if it does, what's it going to do to the speculative money out there? Where's the speculative trade going to go next? Um, you know, is this amazing Tesla strength going to continue, and does it really mean anything, or is this just kind of a one-off short squeeze type of move right here, or is it a bigger narrative shift? Um, Rivian talked about that. I think it's a great also ran kind of trade to go along with Tesla. Different reasoning, different chart, but same group. And I always love the counterintuitive. Um, News says one thing, price says the other. So those ideas have my attention right here. Can gold and silver and the other metals really firm up and continue to run? Miners say yes, so we'll see We'll see if gold can really follow suit there. Um, I haven't really watched much of Powell. I saw some headlines earlier, but is the Fed really going to start, planting the seeds for a September cut? How will the market respond to that moving into the month? And unfortunately, at the end of this week, earnings are going to start to trickle in. We're going to have bank earnings. I think they start on Friday, and so into next week, we're going to start to see some earnings start to come out. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start talking about earnings again. I'd prefer if we just could skip this earnings season, especially since it's the summer. But the rules. Every few months, got to have earnings season. So,
That's where we get the explosions. I like that. You don't like it? There's like 2 or 3 weeks where it's just like 20% up and down. I love it.
yeah, I guess I don't know.
We we do. I'm going to switch gears slightly. The people are talking. We got
All right.
comments coming in. You have any commentary on? Do you guys have a new trade in the trading desk?
Yes, we do. So
Palantir.
we jumped onto PLTR.
All right,
Uh,
why don't we talk about that one for a second? I hold Palantir. I love it. I've just been in it for like not long term, but pretty
yeah,
long term where like I'm unaffected by anything that's happening and I just like sitting in the stock.
yeah.
It's enjoyable.
So it's already been volatile, and I kind of knew this heading into it because we've talked about this before. That I mean, Palantir is one of these stocks. I mean, it's no secret; it's out there. People like this stock. It's a fun favorite. It ticks a lot of boxes. It could be one of the next big growth stories, of this decade. I think I think all that is possibly true. Um, it's a crazy trading stock. I mean, you in this consolidation zone that it's now breaking out of right here, you can see some of these crazy moves where it's up 8% one day, down 15 the next. I mean, that's an extreme example, but even along here where you have these big rallies followed by these big drops, it can get a little dicey. I understand that. However, it's starting to firm up and it's pushing above this range right here to new year-to-date highs. But more importantly, on a longer time frame, it feels like this post-IPO slump right here is coming to an end, and it's breaking free of all of this. It just needs to get over the hump right here and really get pushed to like 29, $30. And I think after that, the sky's the limit for this stock. I think
Yeah.
that we were talking about earnings season coming up. Well, it's announcing earnings on Monday, August 5th. I think just judging by this breakout move right here, I think people are going to try to pile in to front run these earnings right here. So price action looks great. Yes, it can be volatile. But with earnings approaching, I feel like a lot of people are going to want to get ahead of it. My thinking is I want to ride it with them, and then if our calls are looking really good, then sell them before earnings right there. Maybe have a couple in our back pocket just if we want to play earnings for fun, but sell the majority of that position before earnings come out on August 5th. We got plenty of time. That's almost a month. But I mean, price don't lie. This chart looks really good. It's finally coming out of this, really, really choppy consolidation zone intact right here. I think $30 over a very short time frame is totally doable, and from there, I mean, this thing could really ramp. We'll see how it goes, but I mean, just judging by how quickly it got from the bottom of this range from 20 all the way up to 27, that's an impressive move right there, even if it was kind of bumpy along the way right there. So if we can white knuckle this thing as it pushes higher here, and as you can see, it's going from red to green. It's really dancing around in this area, but I feel like if we didn't get in today on a play like this, if we were sitting around and overthinking it and being like, well, if it retests here, maybe down into 27 even, and then bounces from there, we could grab onto it. I felt like that might be too late, that this could be one of those ones that just
Yeah.
run away from us. So I wanted to get in on it ASAP, and volatility isn't too crazy just yet. The implied moves here aren't too completely insane. So I figured now was the time and see if we couldn't, get that $30 magnet and then go from there.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that. We had a lot of comments on just looking at the new trade. I like Palantir. It looks like a good trader from here as well. So awesome. Well, we got plenty of things to cover next week. We'll be back with top trades. We'll see if all of the semis can keep hanging out. But I do like some of the places you're going, Gunner, with I like Tesla. I'm hesitant to get into Rivian, but I really like the story. It's one of those things like that China move 2 months ago where I'm like, I just don't want to do it. I'm kind of the same with Rivian, but that probably means it's in a pretty decent spot. And then you've got some of these other like I like Palantir and I like the precious metals at this point. They could make it right. I like the idea that you brought up. Seasonality for those is pretty big. September, October can be a pretty explosive month going into an election for gold and silver. So keep an eye on those too. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking trades, and then hopefully we can get a little happy hour set on the books. I'll have to twist your arm, Gunner. See if we
We'll
can do
see.
it. All right, everyone. Thanks again. I say this every week, but I truly mean it. Thank you for the comments in the YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.